Most defendants bring a lawyer to court. Brooklyn Beckham brought a portfolio. He is the eldest son of David and Victoria Beckham, genetic royalty. He walked into the courtroom looking like a GQ cover model who had gotten lost on the way to a photo shoot. He had the messy, cool hair, the vintage tattoos, and he was wearing a bespoke Japanese denim apron over a white t-shirt. He was holding a professional camera in one hand and a whisk in the other. "Mr. Beckham," I said, eyeing the whisk. "This is a courtroom, not a kitchen. Put the utensils down." Brooklyn looked confused. He placed the whisk on the table gently, as if it were a fragile artifact. "Sorry, Your Honor," Brooklyn said. His voice was soft, polite, and deeply British. "I was just documenting the texture of the wood in here. The lighting is actually quite moody, very noir." "We are not here to discuss the lighting," I said, putting on my glasses. "Case number 99, charges, gross negligence and violation of health and safety codes." I opened the file. It contained photos that would make a health inspector cry. "The report states that last Saturday, you volunteered to be the head chef at the Stars for Hunger charity gala." "I did," Brooklyn beamed, looking proud. "I wanted to give back. I wanted to take the donors on a culinary journey." "You sent 30 people to the emergency room," I said flatly. Brooklyn's smile faltered slightly. They had a reaction to the avant-garde nature of the dish. It was a bold choice. Not everyone understands high art. "Mr. Beckham," I said, holding up a photo of a piece of meat that looked dangerously pink. "You served chicken sashimi. You served raw poultry to 300 people." "It wasn't raw, Judge," Brooklyn corrected gently, as if explaining color theory to a child. "It was medium rare, like a fine steak. I wanted to preserve the integrity of the bird. The texture needs to be slippery, to challenge the palate." "Chicken is not steak," I shouted. "Chicken has salmonella. You cannot cook chicken medium rare. That is not a culinary choice. That is biological warfare." "But it looked beautiful," Brooklyn insisted. "I garnished it with edible gold leaf. I took a photo before they ate it. It got 500,000 likes." I stared at him. He measured success by likes, not by whether the people who ate his food survived. He was a chef who had never peeled a potato in his life, skipping straight to the garnish. "You think because you have a famous last name, the laws of bacteria don't apply to you?" I asked. "You think cooking is just arranging things on a plate to look pretty for Instagram?" "My mom says I have a unique eye," Brooklyn said defensively, "and my dad loves my toast." "Well, your dad has a stomach of steel," I said. "The rest of us do not." "Officer Quinn," I signaled the bailiff. "Mr. Beckham thinks he is a chef. He thinks he is an artist. But he skipped the most important lesson: safety. Lock the doors. I think it's time we sent him to a kitchen where creativity is strictly forbidden." I signaled to Officer Martinez. The courtroom lights dimmed, leaving us in the moody, dramatic lighting that Brooklyn seemed to appreciate so much. The large screen descended. "You call it high art," I said, my voice cutting through the dark. "The health department calls it a biohazard level 4. Let's watch." The video began. It was a montage of professional footage from the Stars for Hunger gala, intercut with frantic cell phone videos from the guests. The beginning was glamorous, chandeliers sparkling, celebrities in tuxedos, champagne flowing. Then the camera cut to the open kitchen. There was Brooklyn. He looked fantastic, I'll give him that. He was wearing a custom-made black chef's coat, rolling up his sleeves to show off his tattoos. He was holding a pair of long golden tweezers. He wasn't cooking, he was arranging. On the screen, he was placing a slice of chicken onto a plate. But the chicken wasn't white. It wasn't even grilled. It was a pale, glistening, translucent pink. It looked wet. It looked alive. He carefully placed a single purple edible flower on top of the raw meat. Then he sprinkled gold dust over it. The audio from his clip-on microphone played clearly. "So, for this course," Brooklyn whispered to the camera, using his documentary voice, "I wanted to deconstruct the concept of heat. Fire destroys flavor. Fire is aggressive. I wanted the chicken to be vulnerable. I call this dish the Uncooked Truth." The courtroom gasped. "The Uncooked Truth?" I repeated, horrified. The video cut to the dining room. A waiter placed the plate in front of the mayor of Providence. The mayor looked at the chicken. He poked it with his fork. It jiggled. It had the consistency of a gummy bear. The mayor looked at Brooklyn, who was giving him a thumbs up from the kitchen. Not wanting to be rude, the mayor cut a piece. It stretched. He put it in his mouth. You could see the instant regret. The mayor's eyes watered. He tried to chew, but raw chicken doesn't chew, it slides. He swallowed it whole, like a pill, and reached for his wine. Then the montage sped up to 1 hour later. The glamour was gone. The video showed the hallway leading to the restrooms. It looked like a scene from a disaster movie. A line of tuxedoed men and women in ball gowns were clutching their stomachs, leaning against the walls. A famous socialite, Mrs. van der Woodsen, was sitting on the floor, fanning herself with a menu, looking pale green. "It hurts," she groaned on the video. "It feels like the bird is pecking me from the inside." And where was Brooklyn during this crisis? The camera found him. He wasn't helping. He wasn't calling 911. He was standing over a guest who had passed out on a velvet sofa, taking a black and white photo of them with his vintage Leica camera. "The lighting here is tragic," Brooklyn was heard saying on the video, "but the composition of his suffering is actually quite beautiful. It captures the fragility of the human gut." The video ended with the sound of 6 ambulances pulling up to the valet stand. The lights came back on. I turned to face the chef. Brooklyn was checking the display on his camera, seemingly unbothered. "The composition was good, though," Brooklyn murmured. "I might put that in my new book." "Mr. Beckham," I barked, "put the camera down." "Did you see that video? That wasn't art. That was mass poisoning. You fed raw poultry to the mayor." Brooklyn sighed, a look of misunderstood genius on his face. "Judge, you're looking at it through a very narrow lens. In Japan, they eat raw chicken. It's called torisashi. I was paying homage to Eastern culture. In Japan, I countered, chefs train for years to source specific pathogen-free birds. They butcher them with surgical precision. You bought bulk chicken breasts from a discount warehouse and sliced them with a bread knife. You didn't pay homage to culture. You paid homage to salmonella." "Do you know what salmonella does to the human body, Brooklyn?" I asked. "It causes fever, cramps, and severe dehydration. Mrs. van der Woodsen ruined a $20,000 dress because she couldn't make it to the bathroom in time. Is that part of your composition?" Brooklyn shrugged, adjusting his denim apron. "Fashion is risky, Judge. Sometimes clothes get ruined. It's part of the lifestyle. I offered to send her a new dress from my mum's collection, a size 0. She should be flattered." "She isn't flattered." I stood up, my patience evaporating. "She is hospitalized. She is on an IV drip." "You treat cooking like it's just photography with food," I continued. "You think if it looks good on Instagram, it tastes good, but you can't filter out bacteria, you can't Photoshop a virus." "I am an experimentalist," Brooklyn said, raising his chin. "Einstein was misunderstood. Picasso was mocked. I am disrupting the food industry." "You are disrupting people's digestive tracts," I yelled. "You have no training. You have no certification. You have no idea what you are doing. You are just playing chef because you got bored of playing photographer and model." "It's not a game," Brooklyn said, looking hurt. "I have a passion. I love the idea of food." "That is exactly the problem," I said, walking down from the bench. "You love the idea. You don't love the work. Real cooking isn't about gold leaf and tweezers. Real cooking is about safety. It's about temperature control. It's about washing your hands until they crack. It is a discipline, not a photo op. You want to be a chef? You want to feed people?" "I do." Brooklyn nodded eagerly. "I have a concept for a new restaurant. It's going to serve only blue foods. Blue pasta, blue steak. Very moody." "No," I stopped him. "You are not opening a restaurant. You are not touching a steak. And you are certainly not touching anything blue." I picked up the sentencing docket. "I am sending you to a place where creativity is the enemy, a place where experimentalism gets you fired. You need to learn that food is not art, food is fuel, and it needs to be safe. Do you know the Happy Ham Sandwich Factory in the Industrial District?" Brooklyn looked horrified. "Factory? Like mass production? That sounds very commercial. Is it organic?" "It is a conveyor belt," I said. "It produces 5,000 ham and cheese sandwiches an hour. Every sandwich is exactly the same. 2 slices of bread, 1 slice of cheese, 1 slice of ham, nothing else." "No gold leaf?" Brooklyn whispered. "No edible flowers?" "If you put a flower on that belt, the machine jams and you stop production," I said. "You are sentenced to 200 hours on the assembly line. Your job is to place the cheese. That's it. You will stand in one spot. You will wear a hairnet, a real one, not a vintage one, and you will place the cheese squarely in the center. If it's off-center by an inch, the sensor rejects it. "But Judge," Brooklyn pleaded, clutching his Leica, "I can't work on a line. My mind is too expansive. I need to express my vision. I'll die of boredom." "Better you die of boredom than your customers die of food poisoning," I said. "Officer Quinn," I pointed to the exit, "confiscate the camera, confiscate the tweezers, and get him a hairnet, a large one, to cover that trendy haircut. Welcome to the real world, Chef Beckham, where the only thing we serve is justice. Well done." Officer Quinn walked over with the dreaded gray evidence bin. He placed it on the defense table, right next to Brooklyn's perfectly manicured hands. "The camera," Quinn demanded. Brooklyn clutched the vintage silver camera to his chest. "Judge, please. This is a Leica M6. It's analog. It captures the soul of the room. I need to document this journey, the aesthetic of the sandwich factory, the brutalism. It could be my next exhibition." "The only thing being documented today is your attendance," I said. "Put it in the bin. You are there to make sandwiches, not art." Brooklyn looked at the lens one last time, framing an imaginary shot before lowering it into the plastic box. Clunk. "The tweezers," I said next. Brooklyn held up the long golden tweezers he had been holding throughout the trial. "These are essential," he argued softly. "They are for micro-herbs, for placing the garnish with intention. How am I supposed to plate the sandwiches without them?" "You aren't plating," I reminded him. "You are stacking. You use your hands, gloved hands. Drop the tweezers." Brooklyn dropped them. They made a sad little ching sound against the bottom of the bin. And finally, I pointed to his outfit, the apron. Brooklyn smoothed the dark fabric over his thighs. "This is Japanese selvage denim, Judge, woven in Okayama. It ages with the wearer. It tells a story." "It tells me you've never done any messy work," I said, "because it's spotless. Take it off." Brooklyn untied the leather straps. He folded the denim carefully like a flag and placed it in the bin. Underneath, he was wearing a vintage white t-shirt that probably cost $300. "Officer Quinn," I nodded. "Suit him up for the line." Quinn reached into a bag marked Happy Ham Factory. He pulled out the uniform. It wasn't cool, it wasn't bespoke. It was a plastic, disposable white smock that crinkled loudly. "Put it on," I ordered. Brooklyn looked at the plastic sheet. It doesn't breathe. It's synthetic. Is this sustainable?" "It's sanitary," I said. "Put it on." Brooklyn slid his arms into the plastic. It billowed around him, hiding his tattoos, hiding his physique. He looked like a giant, sad trash bag. "And now," I said, suppressing a smile, "the most important part, the hygiene protocol." Quinn pulled out a small blue packet. He ripped it open, a blue elasticated hairnet. Brooklyn touched his messy, perfectly styled hair. "The hair is my signature, Judge. It took 40 minutes to get this bedhead look. A net will crush the volume." "Loose hair falls into sandwiches," I said. "Customers don't want your signature in their teeth. Put it on, all of it, ears tucked in." Brooklyn stretched the blue net over his head. It squeezed his forehead. It flattened his hair. He looked instantly ridiculous. "But wait," Quinn said, digging back into the bag. "He has facial stubble." Quinn pulled out a second net. "A beard snood. It loops over the ears and covers the chin and mouth." "Oh no," Brooklyn whispered. "A snood? That sounds like a medieval torture device. It covers my jawline." "Safety first, Chef," I said. Brooklyn put on the beard net. Now only his eyes were visible. He looked like a surgeon who had lost his medical license and was forced to work in a cafeteria. "I look anonymous," Brooklyn mumbled through the mesh. "No one will know who I am." "That is the point," I said. "For the next 200 hours, you are not Brooklyn Beckham. You are not a brand. You are not an influencer. You are employee number 412, the guy who put the cheese on. Officer Quinn, take him to the factory floor, introduce him to the conveyor belt, and tell the foreman that if he sees a single phone out for a selfie, to stop the line. Go make me a sandwich, Brooklyn, and this time, cook the meat." The Happy Ham Sandwich Factory was not moody. It was fluorescent. It was white. And it was deafeningly loud. Clank, whir, hiss, clank. I walked onto the factory floor to check on employee 412. Brooklyn was standing at Station 3. He was wearing the blue hairnet, the beard snood, and the plastic smock. He looked miserable. His eyes were darting back and forth, following the rapid movement of the bread slices on the belt. His job was simple: place the cheese. But Brooklyn was struggling. I watched him pick up a slice of cheddar. Instead of slapping it down flat, he hesitated. He turned the cheese 45 degrees. He placed it like a diamond. Bzzz. A red light flashed. A mechanical arm swept the sandwich off the line and into a waste bin. "Stop!" the foreman yelled over the noise. "No diamonds! Square! Square on square! Why do you keep rotating it?" Brooklyn shouted back, his voice muffled by the beard net. "Because the symmetry is boring. It lacks tension. The diamond shape creates visual interest." "We don't sell visual interest," the foreman screamed. "We sell sandwiches that fit in the box. Do it again." Brooklyn sighed, a sound of crushed artistic spirit. He grabbed another slice. He slapped it down flat. It fit. The sandwich moved on. I stepped up beside him. "Good afternoon, chef," I shouted over the machinery. "How is the Uncooked Truth going?" Brooklyn jumped. He almost dropped a slice of cheese. "Judge!" he yelled. "This is soul-destroying. It's robotic. There is no soul in this food. It's just bread, cheese, ham. Bread, cheese, ham. Where is the passion?" "The passion is in the precision," I said. I pointed to the counter on the wall. 15,000 safe sandwiches made today. "Do you see that number?" I asked. 15,000 people are going to eat lunch today, and not a single one of them is going to the hospital. Not one. That isn't boring, Brooklyn. That is a miracle. Brooklyn looked at the counter. He placed another slice of cheese. Perfect alignment. "But it's so average," Brooklyn complained. "I want to be extraordinary." "You were extraordinary on Saturday," I reminded him. "You sent the mayor to the ER. That was very memorable. Here, being average means being reliable. It means people trust you." I watched him work for a few more minutes. The rhythm was taking over. Grab, place, grab, place. He stopped trying to style the cheese. He stopped looking for angles. He just focused on doing the job right. The foreman blew the whistle. "Lunch break." The belt stopped. The silence was sudden and heavy. Brooklyn peeled off his gloves. His hands were shaking slightly from the repetitive motion. He walked over to the rejection bin. He looked at the sandwiches he had ruined, the ones with the artistic cheese placement. "Can I—" Brooklyn hesitated. "Can I eat one? I'm starving." "Go ahead," I said. "It's safe. I checked the temperature myself." Brooklyn picked up a factory-made ham sandwich. Cheap white bread, processed cheese, no gold leaf, no edible flowers. He took a bite. He chewed. He swallowed. "Well?" I asked. Brooklyn looked at the sandwich. "It's chewy, salty." He took another bite. "But it's cooked," he admitted quietly, "and I don't feel sick." "That's the best review a chef can get," I said. "You know, my dad used to eat stuff like this before he was famous," Brooklyn said, looking at the plastic wrapper. "Maybe I skipped a few steps. Maybe I tried to be a Michelin star before I knew how to be a line cook." "You tried to run before you could walk," I agreed. "And you tripped over a chicken. Finish your shift, Brooklyn. 180 hours to go. By the time you leave here, you won't be an artist, but you will be something much more important." "What's that?" he asked. "Competent," I said. I walked back to the quiet of the studio. "We live in an era of instant experts," I said to the camera. "We think because we have a camera and an Instagram account, we are professionals. We value the photo of the meal more than the meal itself. But true mastery isn't about how good it looks. It's about how well it's done. It's about the boring, invisible work of safety and consistency. Don't try to sprinkle gold on something if you haven't learned how to cook it first. And remember, the story you just watched is a fictional drama created for educational purposes. While we used real names and personas like Brooklyn Beckham to illustrate the moral point, this specific event did not happen. But the lesson remains: respect the process and always cook your chicken. I'm Judge Frank Caprio. Bon appetit.